their sovereign wealth fund. They don't experience recessions. COVID is not affecting them the way it is affecting us because they have money that was sitting down in reserve for their people. What did they do differently? In 1990, they discovered oil in 1969. In 1990, they decided to start their sovereign wealth fund, and they take money and they reinvest it around the world. And they use not the oil money, they take that oil money and they invest it, and those investments make money. They use that investment money to make more money for their future generations and to pay bills and expenses. Isn't that smart? Yeah. I'll touch back to that in a minute. If you go to Kuwait, they get a check every month. You go to Qatar, they get a check every month. Can you imagine that we're getting a check every month for our natural resources? Can you imagine that? It sounds like Randall Fogg's dream. Like, what is this man talking about? But it's happening around the world. It's happening right now. Can you imagine that Morton Salt makes more money than the Bahamian government? Can you imagine that? Think about that! Morton Salt makes more money than the Bahamian government with one of our natural resources. There are about 11 salt ponds in the Bahamas. That's just one. They could stay, we could be our friends, we could set up other salt ponds. Can you imagine that? Salt, no one in the world eats without salt. Is a valuable resource. No one in the world eats without salt. You have sodium in everything. You drink it, you eat it. It is one of the world's most valuable resources. And we're giving it away and buying it back. It's time to evolve. Oil has been discovered in the Bahamas. In 1986, they were digging from the Clinton administration, and they discovered 17 billion barrels of oil from then. And these guys who just came in, Bahamas Petroleum, they discovered $2 billion more. We're talking about trillions of dollars worth of our natural resource. And guess what? It's already being traded on the United Kingdom Stock Exchange. There are people already benefiting from our oil before they even dig it up. It's being traded, and you are not allowed
to trade.
It's time to evolve. Oil is the most valuable commodity there is. There's 45 gallons in a barrel of oil. Only 19 gallons of that is used for gas, diesel, jet fuel, etc. The rest of that is used to make everything around you. Almost every product that you use as a human being is made from oil. If you look around, the paint on that wall, that's from oil. The makeup on some of the faces in here, that's from oil. The lipstick, the fingernail polish, the clothing that you're wearing, the shoes on your feet, every plastic product, 6,000 products made from oil. The tires, every rubber product is made from oil. It is an extremely valuable product. We have the building block of society in our country. And they are already deciding to give it to someone else, to others. Look at the neighbor and say, it's time to evolve. The problem is we don't know the value of what's happening. When Bahamians started talking about aragonite, the three birds and a goat minister quickly jumped up in the news and says, oh, there's no value in our natural resources, there's no value in the aragonite. You remember that? Why was it so important for him to jump and try to say that? No, that ain't no good. That's like your little sister eating the food. She said, no, this tastes bad. This tastes bad. Yeah, you don't want none of this. This tastes bad. Because they don't want you to know what's going on. Our sand is being taken out of this country. Our sand is even more valuable than our oil. They don't take our sand out of our country to put it on the beach in Florida because our sand is better than theirs. Sand is one of the other building blocks of that society. They use it actually for more things than they use oil for. I wanted to Google this when y'all go home because I can't I don't have the time to like be educated on all of this. Google the uses of sand. It will blow your mind. All of the construction that's happening in the world, Dubai, where they built the tallest building in the world that's twice as tall as the Empire State Building. The sand they need for concrete is our sand. The sand they use in the desert can't work. It's not the good sand. The other sand you see around the world is too clayey. So they use our sand. The good sand around the world is becoming scarce. So we have the biggest cache of it. Because it's becoming scarce. So that means it's more valuable now. But they don't want you to know that. So they jumped up and said, oh, no, it's no good, no good. Bad aragonite. Because they don't want you to know the value of it. Every single electronic device is built from it. There's something called silica. And so the world is changing to digital. And COVID is going to help that. But every digital platform is run by servers, is run by chips, is run by microchips. And they get the silica from our sand. Can you imagine that? The world is shifting and we have the building blocks of where it's going. We are the most valuable country in the world. The problem is, you don't know the value of what you have. And so while they shipped out in the last 16 months $5 billion of rice, they didn't want you to know. $5 billion. Our entire government budget is $2 billion. This means that we would have not had to pay any taxes on any one of these natural resources to cover our entire government budget. Think about it. I want you to evolve in your thinking. The transformation starts here. Imagine like what Norway is doing. If any one of these we could benefit from, imagine if we could take the natural resource, make the money from it, invest it, and take the money and now buy cruise ships on the Bahamas cruise line. Because the cruise ships, every year you see what they're doing. They're going to stop coming to Nassau. They're going to stop coming to us where we can benefit. They're going to their own little islands that they bought. What if we can have, and you can't stop them, what if we could have our own cruise line? Not just that cruises our islands, that now cruises to other countries, Jamaica, Mexico, Trinidad, Alaska, Europe, our cruise line. We will be making money off the tourism of the world. It's time to evolve. It's time to change our thinking, to go to another level. We have the resources to do it. It's just that we're not benefiting from it. They want you to think that this thing is impossible. It is very doable. It is happening around the world right now as we speak. It's time to evolve. When you go to the Middle East, those Emiratis and the Emirates, they don't work. They get a check. They bring in the foreigners to work because God gave them a natural resource that should benefit each and every one of them. But our natural resources are being raped and robbed from us. The first constitutional rights we have is to the land in which we live. God gave us this land. Your passport is the most valuable passport in the world. Everything that comes out of this country belongs to us. So it's time for us to stand up. It's time for us to demand more. It's time for us to evolve and think that we can do better. We can be better. When Pin in the Nose wanted independence, there were people saying, no, we can't do it. We can't take care of ourselves. No, how are we going to defend ourselves? We don't have an army. And they didn't want to evolve. But we evolved and everything was okay. The major reason that the slaves took so long to be freed wasn't because of the slave masters, because most of the slaves didn't want to be freed. They couldn't sell us off the plantation. What am I going to do? How am I going to earn money? They didn't see themselves moving to that level. I come to you tonight to tell you to see yourself in another level. It's happening all around the world right now. It's time to evolve. It's time time for change. It's time for the Bahamian passport to be the most valuable passport. If we are benefiting from our natural resources, if we are, then you wouldn't want to be taking your child to Miami, you're taking yourself to Miami to have baby, because our passport would be more valuable. It's time to evolve. I'm going to wrap it up there, but every single Bahamian is a millionaire.
Yes.
Those countries that are doing it with their one natural resource have millions of people. We only got 350,000 people or so. Every Bahamian is a millionaire. It's time to stop struggling. The struggle is over. But we have to go on a mission to educate our people. What they did in Dubai, they formed a company, allowed that company to do business, to do investments, etc. with their natural resource, and they send their people a check. Are you ready for your check?
Yes.
Are you ready for my check? It's time to evolve. Look at your neighbor and say, it's time to evolve. Thank you.
The most valuable commodity on Earth is not gold or silver, oil or diamonds. The most valuable commodity on Earth is land. Why? Because gold, silver, diamonds, and oil come from land. Every business takes place on land, but it's not just what is in or on the land that is so valuable. It is the land itself. In the 80s, while Bahamians were killing themselves to sell cocaine from Colombia, land pirates in the Bahamas were making far more money selling Bahamian dirt. Our dirt is worth more than gold. Our dirt is the high grade. When you don't know the value of your natural resources, it can easily be taken away from you. Will you sell your birthright for a bowl of soup? This is nothing new. It has been happening for centuries.
To the Indians, gold and silver was useless. So it's no surprise that foreigners came in and made them slaves to mine their own resources, then export it. Though he met the Arawaks upon his arrival, Christopher Columbus was credited with the discovery of the Bahamas. He was also credited for discovering America, though he had never set foot on American soil. He wrote about the native Arawaks in his captain's log as well as in a letter. He wrote, "The Indians are so naive and so free with their possessions that no one who has not witnessed them would believe it. When you ask for something, they have no. On the contrary, they offer to share with anyone. They are built well, with good bodies and handsome features. They do not bear arms and do not know them. For I showed them a sword. They took it by the edge and cut themselves out of ignorance. They have no iron. Their spears are made of cane."
After speaking so well of the innocent, naive native Bahamians, he continued, "They would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want." This was the advent of minority rule, which continues to this day. In part 1 of this series, you learned about sand pirates who have been raping our land of one of the most valuable commodities on earth since the 1960s. In this episode, you will learn about the land pirates who have been stealing our land. The UBP passed laws to empower themselves to steal land legally, but the reason they were stealing the land is the real secret. You thought they were stealing the land to develop subdivisions. The real reason behind the land theft will blow your mind. The Bahamian Evolution team has been investigating these pirates for months. Our team was able to get into a calcine meeting with Allison Myers, the daughter of Anthony Myers and sister of Jason Myers, who we told you about last week. At this meeting, Allison was caught red-handed selling our aragonite that was stolen legally from our oceans. Why do we say stealing legally? Because they used their politician business partners to make deals and pass laws to benefit them. So instead of giving them the aragonite for free, they let them pay a small token amount like $2 per metric ton, just so they can say that they got it ethically and legally. The problem is, corruption is not ethical. In this episode, we are going to show you never before seen documents that show the political connection and backdoor deals. And we will show how our government is constantly outsmarted by these pirates.
Before we get started, we just want to inform you that last week's episode was removed from YouTube. Why was it removed from YouTube? Because Anthony Myers contacted YouTube and told them that we were exposing his private business. Now, this is a man who is known to have contracts with the Bahamian government, but he wants his actions to be private. He wants everything to be private. What do these people have to hide? Well, today, like what we exposed last time, we're going to expose even more today. We're about to show you how these people operate. And this is how politicians hide what they're doing. You see, you can go to the public registry at any time and get information on companies in the Bahamas. So what do? They form companies outside of the Bahamas, outside of your reach, and outside of your prying eyes. And so this is what they do. We're about to show you. So our investigative team flew all the way to the United Kingdom to get the files, to show you exactly how it's done. So this is what they do. So for example here, this is the company, it's called BHM International Group UK Limited. And this is a company that's registered in the United Kingdom. And as we scroll, we're going to find some interesting stuff about this company. We're going to see who the persons are behind this company. And you're going to see that these persons are connected. And here is the connection that you can't see in the Bahamas. Now you're going to see it. So company director number 1, Mr. Anthony David Myers. That's a name that we all know that we've been hearing. He's a British resident and he is the president of this company. But look at company director too. There you connect the dots. Mr. Andrew Brent Simonet. Yep, Mr. Andrew Brent Simonet. But of course, this is a different Brent Simonet than the one you know as the former Deputy Prime Minister of the Bahamas. This is his son. And so this is the younger Brent Simonet. But of course, this is what politicians do. They put things in their children's name, in family members' name. This is how they operate so that they can stay under covers. Of course, this is like a man who is about to get divorced and he doesn't want his wife to get the house, so he puts his house in his mama name. And so this is what politicians do. All right, and you can see other persons that are involved. You can see Mr. John Frederick Bethel, and that's the Bethel with 2 L's. So you know that's the money Bethel. And of course, Mr. Peter Newton, and this name, Mr. Craig Roland Simonet. This is the brother of Brent Simonet, of course. And of course, Mr. Ibrahim Saidi. And so this document also shows how much shares each person has, and it shows different companies that are involved with the shares, because what they do is they don't put the shares in their name, they put it in company names. Like Benelli Holdings has a certain amount of shares, Bethel Estates has a certain amount of shares, David Bryce, Donald, who is not a director, has a certain amount of shares, Inglewood Investments. But watch this. Andrew Brent Simonet has shares, and look, the Group Limited has shares in this company. All right, and so this is how they operate. This is how they're able to get advantage. Of course, we haven't found any exact corruption that these persons have done, but we're just saying that politicians are connected to big business people, and big business people are connected to politicians, and in a lot of cases, that's how they get what they want. That's how they sometimes get these sweetheart deals that no one else can get. Now, on to greater things. So our team, as we said, was able to access a Chalcedon meeting. It was a presentation where they were trying to sell our aragonite.
Hi everyone, this is Allison Myers and my colleague Harold McCurk, and we're from Chalcedon Minerals and Materials. We're located in Gadsden, Alabama, and we harvest oolitic aragonite from the Bahamas. It's a renewable and sustainable resource that we use in agriculture as a liming agent, but it's much more than that. So we own the leasing rights for the oolitic aragonite for harvesting it in the Bahamas. We have a 500 square mile lease. And what we do is it's just naturally forms on the banks of the Bahamas, and we harvest it and move it up to Gadsden, Alabama, and also throughout the Midwest through both Trent and Lynn as well.
Now, what she said is very interesting because this meeting took place in April 2020. Why is that interesting? Because the media reported that their family no longer has the lease to Ocean Key, but she is claiming that they still have this lease. And so this is very interesting. Maybe Ocean Key, the island itself, is gone, but maybe they still have the rights to mine in the ocean, and maybe they are mining somewhere in the ocean not far from there.
That Ocean Key is our lease area, that 500 square mile lease area. The current reserves are about 1 to 2 billion metric tons, and we've calculated the renewal rate to be about 266,000 to 2.3 million metric tons a year. And over the entire Bahamas banks, that's even larger. You know, we have reserves of 50 to 100 billion metric tons and renewing at 14 to 120 million metric tons a year. So
I don't know if you know what you just heard, but she just admitted that they have a reserve of up to 2 billion tons of aragonite. Up to 2 billion tons of aragonite. Do you know what that means? Let's do some calculations. 2 billion tons of aragonite times 7,000 is $14 trillion. 2 billion tons of aragonite times 7,000, which is the street value, is up to $14 $15 trillion that they are sitting on. Wow. Allison further stated that by their estimates, the Bahama banks alone has 100 billion tons of aragonite, up to 100 billion tons of aragonite. Do you know what that means? Let's do some more math. 100 billion tons times 7,000 is $700 trillion. I'm going to repeat that for you. 100 billion tons times up to $7,000 the street value is $700 trillion. That means that every single man, woman, and child in the Bahamas is extremely wealthy. But how wealthy? You know, we normally we normally say that every Bahamian is a millionaire because we're trying to be conservative and we don't really want you to see the numbers we see because it's so unbelievable. But based on the numbers given by Allison herself, every single Bahamian is a billionaire because 700 trillion divided by 350,000 Bahamians is $2 billion for every single Bahamian. Yes, that is correct. According to these numbers, every single Bahamian can be a billionaire just off of one of our natural resources. Even if you divide it by 2 because the number is too high, that's still $1 billion. Even if you divide that number by 2, that's still $500 million. Every single Bahamian is guaranteed to be a millionaire off of one of our natural resources. So let me show you how wealthy the Bahamas really is. The entire GDP of the United States of America is just over $22 trillion. That's the United States of America. The entire Saudi oil reserves is 258 billion barrels of oil, which translates into about $10 trillion in oil reserves. The Bahamas is truly the wealthiest country in the world, if we can get it together. So the question is, what went wrong? In order to find out what went wrong, why Bahamians aren't benefiting from their natural resources, why the country isn't extremely wealthy from their natural resources, we had to take another road trip. So our investigative team had to take a road trip, but the problem is that airplanes don't go where we have to go for this one. For this one, we're going to need a time machine. And so Allison touched on it in her presentation. She gave you a little clue. Listen.
Back in the 70s, the Amish and Mennonite farmers heavily used aragonite, and they were very, very keen on it. It was their preferred choice. However, in the 70s, we were not the lease owners. It was a prior company that had the lease. And they sold into, the glass markets and also into coal scrubbing.
But it was after the Progressive Liberal Party came to power in 1967. The then premier, the first black premier of the Bahamas, Prime Minister, the late Lyndon Oscar Pindon, quoted that aragonite would be the savior of the Bahamian economy. This was pre-independence. This was shortly after we won majority rule. I spoke to a member of the team that traveled to Ocean Key during this time, and they informed me that they used the term for aragonite Bahamian gold. And so the expectations were extremely high in terms of how Bahamians would benefit from the production of aragonite. However, that never happened. Why? All of our minds can go all over the place in terms of trying to figure out why all of us have our own beliefs as to why.
And so we decided to put on our Sherlock Holmes hat and go digging for the truth. And what we found really disturbed us. What we found was Columbus all over again. We found that it was us. It was our people that gave away the Aragonite to the foreigners. And we found documentation to prove this. We found that, yes, we touted that Aragonite would be the savior of the Bahamas, and then it disappeared. We passed law in order to make this happen, and then it disappeared. So we went and dug up the act that they passed so that we could see what really happened. And we saw that they passed a law to empower a particular company. Well, we found all of the documents involved, including the leases and agreements that were signed by those companies, the original documents with the original signatures. And what we found is going to shock you. It's going to show you how sophisticated investors come in, make deals with our governments, and then outsmart us. And so we went deep into the archives to pull out this document. Actually, it's just an act that was passed. And so in 1969, the Pinland administration passed a law that was assented in 1971. And so the purpose of this law was to encourage the Aragonite industry. But what was discouraging about it was that it was for one company. They went to Parliament, our Parliament, and passed an act to empower one company. And that company is called Ocean Industries Incorporated. And look, you can see the name of that company right there on the document. It says Ocean Industries Incorporated, Aragonite Mining Encouragement. What about our encouragement? And so this said, it's an act to encourage the mining by Ocean Industries Incorporated of calcareous deposits known as Aragonite. And so this is for this company. What about us? What about us? And so this was supposed to be the savior of the Bahamas. And I'm going to speed through this quickly because I just want to show you a couple of things in this document. Then we're going to actually go to the actual document they signed. Look, they got exclusivity. Not only did they only give to this company, but they got exclusivity. And look here, all the rights and privileges hereby granted by the lessor to the tenant, as set forth above, are exclusive to the tenant, and shall not be granted by the lessor to any other person. This is something else. It's like we pass laws to help others and not ourselves. And it says, though, and this is where the money for the Bahamas started to come in, and that's because they were supposed to pay royalties, and there was a fixed amount, there was a fixed base fee for royalties that they were supposed to pay, and it's these figures here. But these aren't big figures, so how could we tout this as the savior of the Bahamas? It was because there was supposed to be other royalties paid, which was a percentage of what was made. It was supposed to be a percentage of the profits that were made. So there was supposed to be royalties that were payable, and they were supposed to give an account of all the profits made, and they were supposed to keep accurate records of all the profit made and of their mining, and this was supposed to be the savior of the Bahamas, y'all. But something happened. It didn't really work. And so we needed to dig deeper to see what went wrong. And so that's when we had to go to a secret lost document that no one has ever seen on TV before. And you're going to be seeing it here for the first time. A secret lost document, the actual document that they... Our investigative team is amazing. This is a document that you can't even go to the registry and find. This is an amazing document that shows what happened. Okay, and so basically, this is the agreement between our government and Ocean Industries, Inc. And so our government gave them an indenture of lease. And so this is the actual original document. This is a powerful document. And basically it outlines some of the same things that was in the act, with the exclusivity and everything else. And there you can see it has the fee payment and the schedule, etc., etc. But what's interesting about this is the signature page. I want you to pay close attention to who signed this document is really important. And this is what's going to help you to understand what really happened and what really has been going on. This is the signature page. And so you can see who signed it. So this is the government officials that signed. And so Francis Cummings, of course, that was the Governor General at the time. And of course, Jeffrey M. Thompson. He was the Minister of Development at the time in the Progressive Liberal Party. I think he passed away in 2008. But look who signed for this other company. Now pay close attention, because this document with these signatures have not been found for years and years and years. It's almost like they were trying to hide this. They didn't want you to see this. So people have seen the regular document, but not the one with signatures, and we're showing it to you for the first time. And so it was signed by Hans Vidar, and that's how you pronounce it. It's spelled V-I-D-E, but it's Hans Vidar. That's how you pronounce it. And so he is the president of this company. Look at his signature, Hans Vidar. All right, and the secretary also signed it, and that's Richard L. Knight. And so they're the ones who signed this document. And so very interesting. Now, in order to understand what really happened, I have to take you to another document that we have not seen for a very long time, and that persons didn't want you to see. Because what these guys did was something very peculiar, and it is how they were able to not even have to necessarily pay royalties. Watch this. Okay, now here's another ancient document. Y'all, the new Bahamian is a sharp Bahamian. They're not going to fall for the same old tricks that our forefathers fell for. Look at this. This is a document where Ocean Industries was given the lease to be able to make money from selling the aragonite they got from our ocean bed. What did they do? They went and turned this over, their rights to another company, started selling to this other company. They started selling to this other company. Look, they made a deal, and they had an assignment deal with this other company, and this other company is called Ocean Trading Corporation. So pay close attention. Ocean Trading Corporation. This is the original document here. And when I say original, I mean a copy of the original, but this is it. This is not the ones with no signature that you may have seen. This is the document. And so here's the notary, etc., etc. But I'm going to go straight down. I'm going to go straight down to the signature page on this one. All right. And so here's the signature page. And of course, this is the deal that's happening. And look at the deal. So it's Ocean Industries Inc. And you remember this signature from Hans Vidar. Hans Vidar. So here's the signature again. You remember it. And here is the secretary of Ocean Industries Inc. that got the deal with the Bahamas government, Richard L. Knight. So that's pretty straightforward. But look who signed for the other company. Wow. That's Hans J. Vidar again. And that's Richard Knight as the secretary of the other company. They are from both companies. They own both companies. So he is the president of this company, and he's the secretary of that company, and so they are from both companies, and they were selling to themselves. What were they really doing? So I'll explain to you what really happened here. What really happened is very easy to understand. Why would they do this? Why would they sell to themselves? Well, it's pretty simple. It's because they had a deal where they were supposed to pay a percentage of their profits. And so they were being charged 6 cents per metric ton at the time. And so they would have to pay a percentage of all of their profits. So what did they do? They have a company in Florida. Their other company is in Florida. So instead of selling to the public and selling to everyone else, they just sell to themselves. So if they have to pay the government 6 cents, if that's their cost, 6 cents per metric ton, then they sell to the other company for 6 cents per metric ton. And guess what? They made no profit. But then they're able to that other company to sell to as many companies as they want. And they can make all the profit they want and not have to actually pay to the Bahamian government. Oh my God. This is amazing. And this was supposed to be the savior of the Bahamas, and this is the first thing that happened. You see, we're giving you real investigative journalism here and investigative reporting. We're giving you a real documentary here because we have to be, as a Bahamian people, we have to be aware of what's been going on. Something has happened why we can't benefit from our natural resources. And the worst part of this deal is that they were assigned certain rights, and they sublease their rights to allow other people to even come in here and mine in our country. And it even started to list. See, they were able to, without the permission of the Bahamian government, the lessor, or the assigner, which is the other company, they were able to lease to any corporation organized or to be organized under the laws of any state of the United States of America. Oh my God. So our right to mine our aragonite at the time was given away to a foreign company. And that foreign company was able to sign an agreement in order to give it away to a company that was a U.S. company. Not Bahamians. We were out. We're not allowed to benefit from our own natural resources, but any company that's a U.S. company, and even listed some companies that it was going to allow to do it. Alpha Portland Cement Company, Dow Chemical Company, and all of these big companies. This is what has been happening in our country, and we've not been allowed to benefit. And it's time for this to stop. As Bahamians, we've been blocked out, and it's time for change. And so here we are back, but it's still, we can still understand for the life of us why the government was charging, 6 cents at a time and now $2 a metric ton at a time. It doesn't make sense because of how valuable aragonite is. Maybe they don't understand the real value of aragonite. What was going on here? So we had to dig up some more documents, and these documents are the actual documents these are the actual documents that actually permitted Ocean Key to be mined recently in 2010, and it allowed them to be mined for $2 a ton. And or didn't believe the government would do something like this. This is the actual documentation. You can see it there for yourself. Now, what's interesting is another page and document in all of this. This is very interesting, and this is going to change the way you see in this whole thing. And so this document made it all make sense. This document is clear as day. It instructed them that the export of aragonite was only for the purpose of restoring beaches. That's it. They were to take the aragonite from the bottom of our oceans, and the purpose of it was to take it to another place and restore beaches with it. But all of these companies way back then, you heard Allison say in the 70s, they were selling, and they were selling to this industry and that industry, and then that's before they were in there. Now they're doing it, and they're selling all these products, and everyone in between was selling all these different products. So maybe the government thought that this whole thing was just to get sand from the bottom of the ocean that we know as aragonite and restore other beaches. But the companies were taking them and doing other things with them. Maybe that is the case. And if that is the case, then maybe these companies are liable. This deserves a commission of inquiry, because this was supposed to be the savior of the Bahamas. This was supposed to be a really big deal, and it fell flat. And so what the first company did was they got us into the aragonite industry, and then they got us out of the aragonite industry right away. And now it seems like the government doesn't really know what's going on, because they're coming out and saying that there's no money in this industry. And maybe that's because they think there's no money in this industry. So maybe poor little Romy may feel that we can't be billionaires from this because they don't know the value of it. Or maybe they know the value and they're pretending not to know. Who knows? What I know we need is our Freedom of Information Act, because with all of this going on, I'm sure that someone in government, some smart person should have been able to see all this, and they should have been able to stop whatever is going on. If that's what's going on, we need a serious change in this country right away. And so now that you get a better understanding of how these pirates work, from political associations, from political friendships and cronyism, to finding ways to not have to pay royalties, to finding ways to just pure abuse our natural resources, now it's time to talk about what we're here for. And that is our major natural resource, and that is land. Why is our land so important? It's not because of what's in the land, but the land itself. Our Bahama land is limestone, and limestone is one of the most important resources around the world. They use it to make so many things that this documentary would be too long to really cover all of them. But everything you can think about, from everything in construction to paint and toothpaste, they use for limestone for. And so you're going to see that there have been land grabs all over this country while you were sleeping, and you're going to now find out why.
We are standing in front of the South Beach Canals in Nassau, Bahamas. These canals are connected to the Pinewood Canals and the Seabreeze Canals.
This area expands from East Street straight to Beatrice Avenue in Seabreeze, and it was owned and developed by Mr. Baker from the 1970s to the 1980s.
During the last Ingram administration, the government secretly purchased the canals from Mr. Baker.
These canals that you see today were once land that was dug for this precious Bahamian resource, limestone.
Where we are standing right now serves as the connector between three canals. We have the Pinewood Canals, which would be those two openings right there. That would be the South Beach Canal. And in the back, we have the Seabreeze Canal. So we are standing at what would serve as the junction between those three canals.
So right here where we're standing is in the back of Pinewood Gardens. This is a huge lake that's in the back of Pinewood Gardens and next to Seabreeze. And so this is where they dredge. This is where they made millions and millions and millions of dollars digging here. Now, when I was a young man growing up, we knew that at a certain time of day you had to go and hold the china closet, hold your dishes. Only the old people know what the china closet is, I think. You had to hold your dishes because the earth would start to shake and rumble because they blew explosives here in order to dig this out. So they would blow dynamite and we would feel it all the way in Pinewood Gardens where we were growing up. And so they dug this out. This used to be land. They exploded this and dug it out and did that to reap the limestone and the quarry and everything else that's in there. And they made millions. They made a lot of money while we didn't even know about it. This doesn't even show up on the Google map drawing. This doesn't show up. Why is everything so secretive in the Bahamas? These millions were being made while you slept. While you were trying to get a bank loan to build a prime home, this was being done in secret. While you were just trying to get out of your apartment in Camp Road and own your own home, this is where the real money was. You were just trying to get something of your own, while they were making billions in secret. So I'm standing here in Pinewood Gardens in front of a home, and it's very peculiar that Pinewood Gardens is known for being in a swamp. That's what people think it is. But little do they know that Pinewood Gardens is actually never a swamp. It was actually highland. It was hilly properties in the back of Pinewood Gardens. And that's why it was so attractive for some developers who wanted to come in and develop Pinewood Gardens. Hey, Mr. Taylor, how long were you living in the Pinewood Gardens area?
I moved into Pinewood in 1979. When I moved into this area, it was like 95% bush, no paved road, no telephone. Pinewood used to have a lot of hills, property hills that is, or hill property, however you want to call it. The developers, they came in and they just cut down all the hills. All. That's something like to this day I still don't understand.
So Pinewood Gardens was not a swamp when you moved here?
No.
Wow. And so when you came here, you watched the excavation going on?
Oh, yes. I had to see it because remember when I moved in, it was just bushes.
Wow. And tell us a little bit about the canals in the back of Pinewood and South Beach.
Back there, the canal, matter of fact, I used to take my dog in the back there, walking.
Who developed that?
George Baker.
And so as you can see, this house is on top of a hill. And this hill is probably about maybe 4 feet high. That is how high this is. This is covering most of my body. This is 4 feet high. And this is even lower than Pinewood originally was. They cut down from where you see this house is all the way down here. They cut down probably about 6, 7, 8 feet of the land and took it all as quarry. And so if you actually do the measurements to see all of this land, all of this acres and acres of land, and how deep they went down into this land, you will get an idea how much tonnage of limestone was taken away from this area. And so we're going to just do a little quick drive-through, and we're going to actually see exactly the different areas where some of the hills still are. Pinewood Gardens was developed by Pinewood Gardens Limited. Now, many names have been associated with Pinewood Gardens over the years, and this includes Mr. Petrie, who was also the developer of Garden Hills, and also Mr. Bobby Simonet. Now, we know that Simonet name. And of course, Pinewood Gardens was not developed necessarily to be a subdivision, although that was a part of the plan. The real reason they developed Pinewood Gardens was excavation. Pinewood was full of hills, and they decided to excavate. And they dug and they dug and they dug, and they made millions and millions, possibly billions of dollars from the limestone that they took from Pinewood Gardens. And then they realized that they went too low. And this is where the problem came in. They went too low, and so they decided to just leave it alone, that they couldn't do development anymore. And so they decided to liquidate. When they decided to liquidate, they turned it over to another company called Awak Homes. Awak Homes continued with the development, and it led to one of the biggest problems in Nassau's history. So we're standing at the back of Pinewood Gardens. This is where the Awak Homes development stopped. And this is where a lot of the excavation stopped. This is at the end of That's Palm Avenue. And so if you look behind me, you would see that where Pinewood stopped, you will see that there's still hills, because this is where they excavated. And this hill is actually about